Welcome to another episode of Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. God is great. All the time. All the time, God is great. Jesus Christ died. He rose again. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, I just want to talk about the 81 Rockets for a second, okay? The 81 Rockets finished 40 and 42, okay? And that whole team primarily depended fully on Moses Malone, who was one of the best centers in the NBA next to Kareem. Kareem was still the best player in the NBA, best center in the NBA. I would probably put Artis Gilmore, Robert Parrish, Moses Malone, obviously, up there. Okay. But Moses Malone was one of the best players in the NBA. But the Houston Rockets almost depended on him to win games. Okay. But I think the thing that opened the door for the teams like the Rockets was Magic Johnson going down early in the season, okay? And Magic Johnson hurt his knee, missed 37 games that year, okay? The Lakers still played very well, okay? They won 54 games that year. They still won 54 games that year. But Magic Johnson missed like a chunk of the season. That opened the door for teams like the Rockets, Spurs, believe it or not, the Kansas City Kings at that time, okay? And so the Suns, the Phoenix Suns, yeah, they opened the door for Kings, Spurs, Rockets, Suns in the Western Conference, okay? Think about it as Houston upset the Lakers in the first round 2-1, okay? Magic Johnson threw up a air ball, okay? Johnson threw up an air ball when the play was designed for Kareem, okay? And so the Lakers lost in the first round. The Spurs then fell to the Rockets, okay? So the Rockets upset the Lakers and the Spurs. The Kansas City Kings had knocked off the Phoenix Suns, one of the best teams in the NBA in 1980-81. So in the Western Conference, okay, I don't think this has ever been seen this before ever since. The Kings finished 40 and 42, okay? The Rockets finished 40 and 42. I think that's the first time in NBA history that two teams with sub 500 records met in the Western Conference Finals. Okay? Think about that for a second. Two teams that finished with sub 500 records are in the Western Conference Finals, okay? And all of this was possible because Magic Johnson went down early in the year, okay? Right? Yeah, so the Rockets won in 5 games, moved on to the NBA Finals. Obviously couldn't overcome Larry Bird and the Celtics, but yeah, so also Tree Rollins was a bad man. That's the one guy you did not want to fight, okay? Tree Rollins was the one guy you did not want to fight, especially in the 1980s, okay? Especially in the 1980s when the NBA where fights in the NBA were common, okay? Fights in the NBA in the 1970s and 80s were common. 60s, 70s, and 80s, fights in the NBA were common, okay? So one of the guys you did not want to mess with was Tree Rollins because he could knock you out. The fight he had with Danny Ainge in the Boston Garden, okay? I believe Tree Rollins bit Danny Ainge, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Tree Rollins bit Danny Ainge, and they were going back down court, and yeah, Tree Rollins just had enough, and the two began sparring. Okay, so there was this one time where the Sixers were playing the Hawks, okay, in Atlanta, okay, and Lionel Hollins is driving down the lane, okay. Y'all are not gonna believe this, okay? Y'all are not gonna believe this, okay? So Lionel Hollins is driving down the lane, right? Tree Rollins goes up, and Tree Rollins catches him with his elbow, okay? Lionel Hollins took exception to that, and this is what had happened next.
But there's a bit of bad news for the Philadelphia 76ers, and let me show you what happened. Lionel Hollins penetrating on Atlanta. Tree Rollins delivers the elbow, and Hollins is furious. He thinks the Tree elbowed him deliberately, so he comes in behind to throw a left-handed punch. But he broke a knuckle on his shooting hand. Nothing wrong with his legs, though, folks. Watch him clear out here. Fortunately for Hollins, Rollins didn't catch him, but unfortunately for the Sixers, he broke the hand. There he is at this moment. He will not be able to play in this series against Milwaukee, and he might be lost for the entire playoffs.
Have y'all ever seen an NBA player run away during the fight? Y'all are probably shaking your heads, laughing just like I am. He takes a shot at Tree Rollins. Tree Rollins. The guy runs away from Tree Rollins, and Tree Rollins is in full pursuit. So, yeah. Tree Rollins, not a guy you want to mess with. Not a guy you want to mess with, okay? And obviously, Lionel Hollins wanted no part of him too, because he ran away. Because as soon as he hit Tree, he ran away, okay? Okay, so I mentioned last week how the Philadelphia 76ers ruined their future and ruined Barkley's future with what they did in the 1986 draft, okay? So they were out in the first round in 1987, didn't make the playoffs in 1988. Got swept by the Knicks in 1989. Now, 1990, they actually had a pretty decent team, okay? Who did they have on the team? They had Barkley, Rick Mahorn, Derek Smith, Johnny Dawkins, Mike Jaminski, Hersey Hawkins. Okay, yeah. They had a pretty good team. They went 53-29. Lost to the Bulls in the second round, okay? But the 76ers looked to be a team that was progressing on the same plane as the Bulls. They were considered to be on the upper echelon with the Celtics, the Pistons, the Bulls, and now the 76ers were going to enter that mix with the Pistons, the Celtics, and the Bulls. Okay. But I think there were a couple of things that hurt the 76ers during the 1991 season, okay? Johnny Dawkins tore his ACL 4 games into the season, so he's out for the year. The 76ers also make a midseason trade by trading Mike Jaminski to the Charlotte Hornets for Armand Gilliam, okay? So Johnny Dawkins goes down. Jaminski's traded. They go 44-38. They sweep the Bucks in the first round, okay? But they lose to the Bulls again in the second round, okay? And as rough as 1991 was for Charles Barkley, 1992 was even worse, okay? Yeah, even worse.
You love Charles and Rick. We knew throughout the whole course of the game that we were going to get into some kind of an altercation between Mahorn and myself and Barkley.
Oh, Barkley just nailed Lambeer on the chin with a lefty. And now fires another one. Barkley and Lambeer slam by. Oh, this is ugly.
And Charles was so mad he'd gotten ejected from the game that he'd ripped the urinal off the wall. And I'm just looking at this hole in the wall, this water shooting out. It looked like a fire hose was behind it.
Of the $155,000 in fines levied by the NBA, $20,000 was billed to Barkley. The fallout from the altercation proved to be the beginning of the end of Barkley's tumultuous stay and
Spit together and just let it fly in the direction of the heckler, standing right really behind my daughter.
The next thing I remember is Charles just spitting, and I got wet. I was like, oh my God, what just happened?
He said, man, this is the worst thing I've ever done. I went too far this time. And I never heard him say that any other time, before or after.
2 days later, I got a phone call from Charles Barkley, and he said that he was basically sorry and he would like to speak to my daughter.
Even if I had to spit on that guy, he didn't deserve it. No matter how ignorant he was, I got to be bigger than that. Lauren taught me a great deal. And I think the best thing ever happened was the way she treated me.
Barkley was fined $10,000 and suspended for 1 game. Chastened but unbowed, he redirected his anger at teammates and management.
When he wanted to tell you something, he would tell you. And either you were mentally tough enough to take it or you would just wilt under, his pressure.
If you missed 5 or 6 jump shots in a row, he would tell you that your jump shot had gone on vacation, and he might then label you with the name vacation.
Harold Katz is the one that everybody blames, who was the owner at that time. Brought in players that just couldn't play and couldn't win. Charles' favorite joke is, I asked for Shaq, and they brought in Charles Shackelford.
After losing to the Bulls in the 1990 and 91 playoffs.
Yeah. So, obviously Charles Barkley was doing everything he could to get traded, and it worked because they traded him to the Phoenix Suns, okay? While he was with the Dream Team, okay? They traded him to the Phoenix Suns, okay? And, all right. And one more thing, okay? Hold on. Okay. So, there was talk around the NBA in 1989, around the Houston Rockets, that Hakeem Olajuwon might not even play during the year, okay? And the reason why they said he might not play during the year is because he had a blood clot. Okay, he had blood clot issues. So he actually was having blood clot issues in July of 1989. Okay. Rocket Center Hakeem Olajuwon remained in the Houston area hospital undergoing treatment for apparent blood clot in the calf area of his leg, team officials said. Olajuwon entered Sharpstown General Hospital on Wednesday after experiencing discomfort in his leg following weekend workouts. Doctors are reportedly attempting to dissolve the clot with medication. Olajuwon is expected to be released over the weekend. Hospital spokeswoman said he is in good condition, but declined to release any other information. 7-foot Olajuwon has declined comment on his hospitalization. Rockets general manager Ray Patterson said he is not concerned about the ailment, believed to be related to an inflammation of a vein in the leg. Yeah, so there was talk around the league that Olajuwon might not even be able to suit up for the 1989-90 season. And as you see in this 1990-91 Skybox, that basketball card, he's wearing a special sleeve on his leg to help with that to help with those blood clot issues. So obviously that had helped him during the 1989-90 season. So yeah. All right, that's it. And that's all for Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I am out of here. May God bless you all.